Good evening, and welcome to the Crypto Overnighter. I'm Nikodemus, and I will be your host as we take a look at the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. And remember, none of this is financial advice. And it's 10 p.m. on Saturday, April 15th, 2023. The House Financial Services Committee released a discussion draft bill on Saturday. This bill would create a regulatory framework for stablecoins. It would put the Federal Reserve in charge of non-bank stablecoins. It would also ban new stablecoins that are not backed by fiat currency. It would allow the government to set interoperability standards, and it would direct the Fed to study a digital dollar. So it's not an either-or kind of bill. They're looking at both stablecoins and CBDCs, although it does put the algorithmic stablecoins on notice. Now, it is a draft bill. It's not final. Negotiations are expected to continue in Washington over the next weeks and months. Still, it's a significant step forward in the effort to regulate stablecoins. Important because they've grown in terms of popularity and usage in recent years. The lack of regulation for stablecoins has raised concerns about their potential to be used for illicit activities such as money laundering and financing terrorism. This draft bill will address those concerns. It will also require stablecoin issuers to register with the Federal Reserve and to comply with financial regulations. This bill would also ban new stablecoins that are not backed by a fiat currency. So your algorithmic stablecoins would be completely out. And it is not difficult to understand why. Look at what happened to the Terra Luna ecosystem. And we do have some Terra-related news coming up, so stick around for that. At any rate, the lesson there was that unbacked stablecoins pose a substantial risk to investors. This bill sets the government up to set standards for interoperability between stablecoins. This would make it easier for users to transfer stablecoins between different payment systems. And finally, the bill would direct the Federal Reserve to study the effects of a digital dollar issued by a central bank. A digital dollar could be used to make payments more efficient and could also help promote financial inclusion. The draft bill is a significant step forward in the effort to regulate stablecoins. However, it is important to note that the bill is not final. Assuming it is ever made into law, it could change wildly from where the bill is now. I want to thank you for hanging in there with us tonight, and I want to ask you to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. It makes such a big difference in helping other people find their way to the show, so thank you. On Friday, April 14th, the Securities and Exchange Commission announced that it's reopening the comment period for proposed amendments to the Exchange Act. Commissioner Hester Pierce quickly responded with a statement. She said the SEC is, quote, rendering innovation kaput. Pierce has numerous issues with the SEC's actions as well as their proposals. She says the amendments fail to offer a clear framework. She says they're trying to implement unworkable standards, that they're trying to undermine First Amendment protections. She also says the SEC is failing to consider if compliance with amendments is even possible. So she's not shy about criticizing her employer, is she? The amendments themselves were initially proposed in January of 2022. There was a comments period of 30 days in May of that same year. The amendments have proven to be highly controversial, as they would force nearly all DeFi platforms to register, which is not great for decentralization. Now, as we talked about the other night, Chair Gensler has said that DeFi platforms already fall under the jurisdiction of the Exchange Act. It's his position that the amendments simply offer greater clarity, but they're unnecessary. Now, Pierce is not the only one who's critical of the SEC's approach. Representative Tom Emmer has called the SEC a shakedown authority. Now, we were just talking about the HFSC. Patrick McHenry is the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. He has also criticized the SEC for failing to provide adequate detail on their case against Sam Bankman-Fried. Now, it's clear that there's growing opposition to the SEC's approach to digital assets. Do you think the SEC is overstepping its mandate when it comes to digital assets? Sound off in the comments below. Now, we're not going to let the SEC hog all of the spotlight. The head of the Commodities Futures Trading Commission has accused Binance of knowingly violating U.S. financial regulations. Ross and Benham said that the Binance leaders had intentionally and knowingly allowed U.S. citizens to participate on the exchange. These users were able to get through by the use of virtual private networks and other obfuscation tools. He said that it's clear that Binance knew that it was breaking the law by offering futures contracts in the U.S. without registering with the CFTC. And so it has come to pass that Binance is facing a lawsuit from the CFTC, as well as legal action from the IRS and federal prosecutors. The CFTC is alleging that Binance engaged in illegal futures trading and violated U.S. anti-money laundering laws. Now, Binance has denied these allegations. They said that they're committed to complying with all laws. Now, it is unclear why the CFTC head would participate in what appears to be a flippant public discussion of ongoing investigations. Usually, you can't get a regulator to talk about an active case in this way. I'm sure he knows what he's doing, but it seems really risky to me to be coming out and talking about a case like this before it's over. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments. And in other crypto crime news, prosecutors believe that Do Kwon sent around $7 million to a law firm just before the collapse of the Terra Luna ecosystem. We were just talking about that earlier. They say that this shows that Kwon knew the collapse was coming and tried to cover his tracks. Kwon has been arrested in Montenegro and is awaiting extradition to South Korea. He faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted. The collapse of Terra and Luna wiped out billions of dollars in value and caused widespread financial hardship, all of which resulted in one of the biggest cryptocurrency scandals in history. Now, prosecutors are still investigating the case. Even so, they've said that they believe that Kwon may have committed fraud by misleading investors about the stability of Terra and Luna. If convicted, Kwon faces a long prison sentence. The Terra Luna collapse has raised serious questions about the future of cryptocurrency. Billions in value wiped out, companies lost, lives ruined. It will be interesting to see what punishment Do Kwon ends up with, if any, that is. And that takes us to our cover story for the night. In an announcement made on April 14th, the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York stated that an individual had been sentenced for wire fraud charges. This is related to Bitcoin from the Silk Road marketplace back in 2012. James Zong pled guilty to charges in November of 2022, and he's been awaiting sentencing since that time. In their announcement, the Justice Department said that Zong had been sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in prison. Sentencing was for executing a scheme to steal over 51,000 Bitcoin. According to U.S. Attorney Damian Williams, Zong stole the Bitcoin in 2012 and was able to conceal his crime for around 10 years. However, the U.S. authorities seized the Bitcoin from Zong in November of 2021, at which time they found a floor safe and a computer concealed in a popcorn tin. At the time, the crypto was valued at roughly $3.4 billion. The Silk Road marketplace was a platform that allowed users to buy and sell illegal goods. When it caught the attention of U.S. authorities, its creator, Ross Ulbricht, was arrested in 2013. Ulbricht is currently serving 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams warned cybercriminals to take note. He said that they will follow the money and hold them accountable, regardless of how sophisticated their scheme is and how long it takes. Bitcoin mining may well be done in Europe. I say that because Sweden is abolishing tax incentives for data centers in July. Energy prices in Europe have spiked in the past year. There's been a war and an energy crisis related to supply issues. Throw in some geopolitical gamesmanship around power and electricity. Energy has gotten expensive in Europe. This energy crisis has driven out Bitcoin miners from many places in Europe, including Norway and Sweden. However, these remote parts of Europe are still profitable for miners because they offer an ideal environment for data centers, cool temperatures, and cheap hydroelectricity. But even these remote areas were not immune to the energy crisis. Prices increased in 2022. This led some miners to turn off their operations, at least in part. Energy prices have started to normalize. Even so, the upcoming tax hike in Sweden will likely stop any new investment in the country. The tax will increase dramatically starting July of this year. Based on my back-of-the-napkin calculations, it looks like a 60x increase. This would serve to make Bitcoin mining in Sweden prohibitively expensive. It could ultimately destroy the industry in the region. Now, many miners are looking to diversify elsewhere, as the new tax will drastically reduce their profitability. Some miners could try to get through the tax hike by switching to self-mining instead of hosting other people's machines. Others are looking at ways to get around the tax by reusing the heat produced in the data centers. They're trying to get taxed as heat producers. Now, it's unclear whether Sweden's new taxes were intended towards miners or the entire data center industry. The tax hike was proposed by the Swedish Ministry of Finance, who was also pushing for a ban on Bitcoin mining in the European Union last year. But to be fair, it's kind of hard to call this a tax hike, really, more like a cessation of a benefit both Bitcoin miners and data centers alike enjoyed. In 2017, Sweden enacted a 98% tax cut for data centers. This was part of an effort to attract investment. The tax cut was successful in attracting Bitcoin miners, and now it appears that the government has had a change of heart. The Swedish government's decision to abolish tax incentives for data centers is a blow to the Bitcoin mining industry. It is unclear where Bitcoin miners will go next, but it is likely the industry will continue to consolidate as miners are forced to close down or move to more favorable jurisdictions. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank you, my listeners, because when you stop listening, I will stop talking. If you enjoyed tonight's show, then please like, follow, subscribe. Maybe you leave a rating or a review. And in the meantime, we'll see you tomorrow night.